Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for this very important webinar. And we are discussing today e-invoicing in the UAE. My name is Mahar Afzal, and along with me, Faiza Hashmi. And whatever we'll be discussing in the webinar, we'll be going through the history of e-invoicing. What is e-invoicing? What is PayPal and its evolution? Then we'll be discussing PayPal versus UBL, how PayPal works, history of CTC, e-invoicing across the globe. That is very important. The reason is a lot of people are speaking about the PayPal, and many of us don't know about what is PayPal. Then we'll be discussing and going through e-invoicing in the GCC. Then we'll be discussing e-invoicing in the UAE. We'll be discussing what is the current status of the invoicing in the UAE, what are decision that has been issued by the respective ministry, and what is the timeline. After this, we'll be going through the way forward challenges and wherever we can help you. So at the end, we'll be going through the FAQs as well. So let's start the discussion. Look into this diagram, and this is basically synopsis of e-invoicing. Just look into this. If you are based here in UAE, from the UAE, you are making call to anyone in the UK. Your recipient is based in the UK. If you are based in the UAE and from the UAE, you are making call to anyone in the UK, might be you are making call or you are sending the messages as well. You will be using the carrier, and this carrier will be Etisalat or Do. Whenever you are sending the message, whenever you are making the call, your phone through the network is being through the Do or Etisalat network. You are connected with the network. Then this network is diverting the call to the network in UK. Might be this is the Vodafone network, Orange network, or Triple E network, whatever is. From that network, call is being diverted to the recipient. This whole process, this is just a matter of milliseconds or seconds. Your call is being connected. You are not even bothered that whichever network is being used by the recipient, and you are just making call. You are making sure that your phone is connected with the Etisalat. You have the balance. Your phone is being connected with the Etisalat or Do, and this network is being connected with the Vodafone network, and the Vodafone network is being connected with the recipient phone. This is how recipient is receiving the call. In case the recipient, your call is not through, then you are getting the response as well that your call is not being connected. So this is the basically this framework. If I'm looking into this framework, I can see there is one network. This is the one basically person who is making call, one recipient of the call. This network is being used. This network is being used as well, and call is being connected. And the most important thing, whenever this SMS or this call is being made, this SMS or this call is in a very specific language. This is called digital communication protocols. There are different protocols for the call, there are different protocols for the SMS, there are different protocols for the data. So one thing is very clear, the four corners are there. One corner is here, this is a call maker, the caller basically. This is the second corner, it is slot network. This is the third corner, this is a Vodafone network. This is the fourth corner, call recipient. So if I'm exactly mapping this thing into the e-invoicing, so if I'm asking the sender who is making this call, this sender is like an ERP, like ERP. It can be SAP, it can be Zero. If sender is, I'm assuming for just for discussion purposes, if I'm assuming this sender is Zoho, SAP, Oracle, this sender is sending one invoice. Instead of making call, this sender is sending invoice. This invoice will be received by the access point. Instead of Etisalat or Do, like Etisalat and Do were receiving the call, this invoice will be received access point. This is called ASP, accredited service providers. This accredited service provider, like a Do in the previous example, like an Etisalat, this accredited service provider will be sharing this invoice in a specific format with the recipient access service providers. So this is basically sender ASP. This is receiver ASP. These both will be communicating with each other. Once these both will be communicating with each other, then this receiver ASP will be sending the invoice to the receiver. This receiver will be another ERP as well. It can be SAP, it can be Oracle, Zero. So here the four grids as well. Now these four grids are using one network. Like in the previous example, we were using the network of Do, we are using the network of Etisalat, we are using the network of Vodafone. Here we are using one network. This network is called PEPPOL. PEPPOL stand for, this is the full form of PEPPOL, Pan European Public Procurement Online. This is a network. So first thing you need to understand, this is like a network. PayPal is nothing. PayPal is not software. PayPal is not hardware. PayPal is not any carrier. PayPal is not any, you can say, any document. This is just a network. This network, whenever you are sending the invoice is being routed from the sender to the access point, sender ASP, from the sender ASP to the buyer ASP, from the buyer ASP to the receiver ERP. If this invoice is being delivered very successfully, this sender ERP will be getting message, yes, this invoice has been delivered very successfully. And if this invoice has not been delivered, you will be getting message in your ERP that this invoice has not been delivered very successfully. You need to make the correction, whatever the changes you need to make. Now, there are the four grids as well. This is the center grid, this is the corner one, this is the corner two, this is the corner three, and this is the corner four. This is also a four corner model. So from one ERP invoice is being sent to the its own access point, accredited ASP, then from their ASP to the recipient ASP, from the recipient ASP, it is going to the receiver. Receiver is confirming the invoice, receives invoice will be booked automatically into the receiver system, and the sender will be getting confirmation that your invoice has been delivered. Now, whenever this invoice is being sent, this invoice is being sent in a specific language. Like in the previous example, we discussed that the call or the data or the SMS is being delivered in the very specific protocol, which is called digital communication protocol. In the same way, this invoice is being delivered in a specific language, this is a specific format, which is called UBL format. This UBL format stands for Universal Business Language, and one of the best example of Universal Business Language is XML, Extendable Markup Language. So I can say here, I have written very clear at the bottom, like SMS call go through and you do not care about who is the operator. In the same way, whenever you are sending the invoice and this invoice is being delivered to the recipient, you don't care who is the recipient ASP. You are making sure that your ERP is connected with your own ASP. This, whether you connected with the ASP, then the invoice will be delivered. And I have mentioned here what is UBL is the common structured language inside the invoice itself. Like the messages are being delivered in a specific language, in the invoice will be delivered in a specific language as well. So you know the PayPal, we all agreed the PayPal is a network which is carrying the invoice, nothing other than this, and the invoice itself in a specific format which is called UBL XML, extensible markup language format. And this format, this language is always, this is the format of the language. Whenever we will be issuing the invoice, this invoice will be issued from our system, from the sender system, in this format. We need to define in our system invoice, we need to create the fields in our system, invoice field, issue date field, supplier field, VAT number field. There are around 50 fields you need to create in your system. Once you are creating these fields in your system in a specific XML format, in a UBL format, it will be sent over the network, PayPal network, to the recipient. So this is just an overview. I believe this understanding will be quite helpful for you for further discussion. So I am handing it over to Faiza. She will be going through the history of the e-invoicing. Then I'll be back. I will be discussing e-invoicing in the GCC and e-invoicing in the UAE and further discussion topics as well. So I'll be back. I'm handing it over to Faiza. I'm trying to make Faiza as a host, but I'm not able to do this. Make host. Faiza, I'm not able to do this. So what I'll suggest that you can continue here, and I will be changing the slides. That would be better, I think.
Yes, that is fine, Mark. So, hello everyone. My name is Faiza Hashmi. So, before we delve into the e-invoicing in the UAE and what the rules say, what the regulations say, we will take a step back and discuss a little bit about the history of e-invoicing and how did we end up to this era where the e-invoicing now is common and is being rolled out to all the countries. So, what is e-invoicing? E-invoicing stands for electronic invoices. What it refers to is the digital creation of the invoice, the exchange of the invoice between the supplier and the buyer, and the storage of those invoices on the ERP system of the supplier and the buyer using a particular electronic format that is standardized, and it's also integrated with the accounting or tax system. So the key characteristics of the e-invoicing, number one, is that the two e-invoices are structured data files like the XML that Mahar just showed in the previous slide. So that can be automatically processed by the system. So it's not like the PDF or the paper scans of the past that we were using. E-invoicing also helps the businesses to reduce the manual data entry, and that in turn helps with mitigating the errors and reducing the processing time. Then this is not only good to have, an option for the business that okay, there are benefits to the e-invoicing, so we should, move into this e-invoicing. It is also a compliance. So many countries have mandated that there is no option, but certain class of people or a certain category of people have to go to e-invoicing, and even in certain cases that everyone has to move to e-invoicing, so for tax reporting purposes, to ensure that there's transparency and to avoid frauds. Now e-invoicing can connect directly with the ERP system, like Mahar explained in the previous slide, that it can get directly integrated with the ERP system of the supplier, also the buyer, government tax portals as well. So Mahar will be discussing the five corner methods as five corner method as well, where the government comes into play as well, and the payment system. So the benefits of e-invoicing are very apparent. There faster processing of the invoicing. There will be cost saving after the initial cost of getting it implemented. There's improved accuracy, better cash flow management, and real time tax reporting. So in summary, e-invoicing is not just sending a PDF by email, which has been, being done in the past. It's about a structured digital invoice that will enable automation and compliance. Now, you must have, if you have attended any webinar on e-invoicing or maybe read an article or looked at the tax regulation, the ministerial decision, you would have heard this word PEPPOL, which, Mahar was also using. And what it simply stands, it's an abbreviation for Pan-European Public Procurement Online. It is not a software like Mahar put it. It is not a government portal. It is not an ERP system. It is just a network. It is a standardized global framework for e-invoicing and e-procurement. It is a network together with the rules and standards, and which lets different ERP systems like Oracle, SAP, to be integrated, and also it allows different countries to exchange this e-invoicing among each other. So like we said, that there are two participants, the two corners, the one is the buyer, one is the supplier. They can connect to the people through the access points, which are the ASPs or the accredited service providers. And this access point to access point connection, like the one for the buyer or the supplier, it does not have to be only in the UAE. So the buyer and the supplier do not have to be present in the UAE alone. So when this UAE adopts this PayPal network, then you will be able to, if you are located here in the UAE or the supplier, and if your customer or your buyer is sitting in Italy or Belgium and Singapore, so through this PayPal network, you're able to connect to them and send the invoices, through this message standard, which is the PayPal BIS based on the UBL XML format. So this PayPal network, it makes sure that the structured invoices can flow between countries, between the ERP systems of the supplier and the buyer, and without building any custom integration. Now, a little bit, we will discuss how that we ended up with this structured e-invoicing system, because we started out with the manual paper invoicing, so it's been used centuries ago, and but then it was very labor heavy. There was slow movement. There's no automation, no audit trail. So big companies, large companies, they wanted that to have a little bit of more automation, more structure. So they moved to the EDI, the electronic data interchange. So EDI is basically the automated computer-to-computer exchange of business document between organization in a standardized electronic format. So companies, they wanted to move to this, from the paper manual invoicing, and we saw in the late 1970s that this came into being. Then in the mid 1990s, businesses, they wanted a more cheaper option. They wanted more automation, easier digital distribution. So they moved to PDF invoicing. And between the PDF invoices in the mid 1990s and from 2015 onwards, when we look at the structured e-invoicing coming into play, there is a stage which we call the transitional stage, the hybrid PDF with the embedded XML formats. So that came into being, between the PDF stage and the stage that we have right now. So right now, the structured e-invoicing, which is mostly using the UBL language. There are some regional languages standards as well, and then the PEPPOL network. So tax authorities are using this for to drive more automation and to standardize the invoicing process. So what is the objective of this paper is that to turn this invoicing into a structured machine readable data. So tax authorities can, validate, match, reconcile, and analyze invoices without the human interaction. So if you look at it, when we move from the manual to the structured invoicing, so there is less and less human interaction happening, and that is the whole point of the e-invoicing. So there is less human interaction. Yes, Mad, you can change. So this is just a format. You can see that we've moved from the manual invoicing in 1970s to the EDI formats, and then the PDF has come into being, the hybrid PDF in the 2013 and 15, and then from 15 onwards, the rollout of the structured e-invoicing formats. So as Mahar put it, that UBL, this is the Universal Business Language. This is a standard that is adopted globally. It's used in the People Network. And why it is more, you can say, globally accepted. So one of the reason of its popularity in the many EU countries and Singapore, Denmark video, you will see that it is because, people is also using this format and it is spreading rapidly in Europe, Asia, and Australia, but also it is also because it is mandated in certain countries, like in the EU directives, that you have to use the PEPPOL standard, so which uses in turn the UBL standard in the network. So that is why it's more common around Europe as well. Now, there are some region-specific standards as well that some countries have adopted who did not want to go with the UBL. So, for example, Mexico, they have the CFDI that they use as the standard. So this is mandatory for all businesses there in Mexico. Then the NFE, this is used by Brazilian, the authorities. This is one of the oldest and the strictest clearance models that's been used in the past. Then we see Fatura PA. This is used in Italy. So Italy was one of the first, countries to adopt e-invoicing in EU, and they're using this Fatura PA system. In India, we see also that they have their e-invoicing schema, JSON system that they're using. So basically, UBL, like we said, is the standard and the language. So this language, this universal business language, is most popular in the world, but this is not the only standard around. And there are some region-specific standards as well, like we gave a couple of examples. Now, UBL and versus PEPPOL, like we said, people confuse the two. They think that they're both, comparable. It is not. So UBL is the language, it's the standard. It is what, defines the XML format of the invoice. For example, what the invoice number is, what the issue date is, what the data is contained in that in particular invoice. It focuses on the content and structure of the document, the invoice. So what people is a network. It is a framework in which, it goes beyond the data format. It provides the transport infrastructure. So UBL is what people adopt as the preferred document format, but it also adds further specifications and profile. So everything is consistent on the network, like Mahar had shown the example for the SMS. So just like whatever the sender is sending is what the recipient is receiving, the same SMS, without any disturbances or in that process of being transmitted. The same way, this PEPPOL network makes sure that it is standardized, and everyone that's receiving that invoice on the network, it's consistent, this data flow. So, for example, a company in Germany, they can send a UBL e-invoice in the format like we discussed earlier in universal business language to via this people network to a government agency, let's say in Norway, and the system will ensure that it is delivered in the right format securely, safely. So the key difference is that UBL is the language. It is what the invoice looks like in the data form, and PEPPOL is the network. It's like a postal service, and together with some rules and standards that it's a network that will deliver this invoice to from the supplier to the buyer. So how does this PEPPOL work? So a very same way like Mahat explained earlier about the four corners, and there's a supplier there, there's a supplier access point, there's a buyer access point, there's a buyer there. So the same way we have this structure where the supplier will create an invoice in the ERP system, and they will use the PEPPOL BIS UBL format. They will send this invoice to the supplier access point, which is the access the ASP, the service provider, they will receive it, they will validate it, then they will send it to the buyer's access point, and this will be done through the people service metadata locator. It will go there to the access point B, to the ASP of the buyer, and from there, it will be validated and then sent to the ERP system of the buyer. So the buyer will receive this invoice automatically. Why this is important is that this is one connection. It works with all the trading partners, worldwide in the network. So, like Mar said, that you don't care, where which networks are there. You're only connected with your own service provider. The same way you're connected with your ASP, and this process ensures that the rest of the process is smooth, and you are all on, even if you're not on the same network, you are being, this data is being transferred securely and in the same format. So there's a matter of compliance, like we said, that this is not something good to have only, but it's also that governments are mandating this and recommending. A lot of them have recommended that you have to use PEPPOL like the EU directive, but there are other standards that can be used as well. There is no need for custom integration, so that is one of the advantages also. So in short, this PEPPOL, like we said, is a secure global postal service for the e-document, and it uses UBL as the common language. So this is just an illustration of the same. You see that this is a seller, they have an ERP system. So from the ERP system, the invoice is generated, it goes to the service provider, the access point A, it validates there, it is sent to the service provider of the buyer, the access point B, and then it moves from there after being validated to the buyer's ERP system, and securely this invoice is moved through this process to the buyer from the supplier. A little bit of what we wanted to discuss was the continuous transaction control, the CTC. Now, what is the continuous transaction control? It is a regulatory model which is used by different governments to monitor the financial transaction in real time or near real time and for tax purposes. So why did this come into being? So, we saw in the early 2000s that it popped up in Latin America because there was a lot of VAT leakage in that region, and there was a lot of fraud being happening. There was, black market was there. So there was a need to have, this first real-time CTC system. So the regional CFDI system that we were discussing for Mexico or Brazil, the NFE, they came into being. So these CTC started popping up in Chile, Mexico, and Brazil. And once, the region, they saw the success of this model, and they saw that, there was a big tax gap reduction, and there were less frauds happening. So then, it spread in that region a little bit more in the 2010, and we saw that Argentina, Peru, Colombia, they all also mandated that, the CTC will be mandatory, and it became a countrywide, process. Then in 2017, it spread to the other region. Europe first adopted it. So like we said that Italy was the first country in the EU to adopt this full CTC. And normally EU has been known to, focus more on the post-audit model to do, audits after, the transaction and go on self-assessment basis. But we saw a shift that they wanted to be more proactive, take a more proactive approach, and they have these controls into place to prevent the leakage of the VAT. Then in 2020s, we see that it becomes, it enters the GCC market where KSA, it started with KSA at that time. And it proved that, CTC can also work in VAT-based economies, and other countries in Asia like India, Turkey, Egypt, they all also started to, in Africa, they started to adopt this CTC model. So now, where we are standing today, we call it the CTC next generation. This is where, the PEPPOL has come into play, how it is helping the governments to reach their objective. So their objective is to stop VAT fraud at the transaction level, and to ensure that every invoice that enters the economy, it's a verified document. And this is what the People Network helps them achieve this target. So let's take a look at the e-invoicing around the world. So we have seen already, like we said, that a lot of countries have already adopted this e-invoicing. So around 80 countries have already either enacted this legislation or they are rolling out this. A lot of countries are rolling out these e-invoicing system as well. Now we have seen in a lot of places that the tax authorities, they're targeting the B2B transactions first. So companies who are dealing in business to business transactions, then they're moving on to business to government transactions as well. So there is some exemption, even Mahar will discuss, in the UAE, where like for business to customer B2C transactions, and the companies which are purely dealing in B2C transactions are at the moment not part of the phase. They are not exempted in the sense they are not being given the exemption, but they are not part of this phase of the e-invoicing. So later they might come into this phase as well. Now, in Europe, we have also seen that, there are a lot of countries into 2026, you will see that have to roll out or where it's becoming live: Belgium, Croatia, France, Germany, Poland, Slovenia, Spain. So in 2026, 27, you will see that, they will be going live. Now, this is also part of the EU's VAT in the Digital Age initiative. So those of you who don't know about it, so this is one of the most significant reforms that have been done by the EU on the VAT system. So it's spread out over 5 years, and their intention is that they want to modernize the VAT system and reduce frauds in the system, leakages in the system, and to harbor the cross-border trade as well. So this People Network and this e-invoicing, this will help them drive this agenda as well. So now I will hand it over to Mahar, who will be discussing VAT in this region, specifically in GCC, and will be telling you about which country has taken the lead, which are the countries that are rolling out this initiative, and those that are still behind and are yet to form a plan. So over to you, Mahar.
Thank you very much, Faiza. Thank you very much. I believe everybody can hear me. And till now we know what is PayPal and what is UBL, and what is the reason of implementing of invoicing, what is continuous transaction control. Just you need to look into the two things are very important. One is the world was trying to see basically whenever they are issuing the invoice, system needs to read this invoice, system needs to validate it, system needs to confirm it. There should be very less human involvement, even there should not be any human involvement. One area they were working on this thing from the paper to the digital world. Second area, in the Latin American countries, as we discussed, they were trying to control the leakage of the VAT. So both of them, one is the four grid option for the validation of invoice, second was model basically for the controlage of the leakage. Now these 2 points merge over. This was the reason of discussing the history of CTC and history of invoicing as well, because the world was trying to digitalize, system needs to interact, system needs to validate. And some tax authority in the Latin countries, basically Latin American countries, they were trying to do basically how to control the leakage of the VAT. Once these two things merged together, it evolved in the 5 grid model that we'll be discussing today. And before going to that level, let me speak to about what is the status of the e-invoicing in the GCC countries. In the GCC country, Saudi Arabia, they have already implemented e-invoicing. They came up with the real Fatura system. And by the way, this Fatura system is a 4-grid model, not a 5-grid model. The reason I'm discussing, we'll speak about why this is a 4-grid model. In the UAE, we are discussing in detail today. Oman, they have already announced they are going to announce basic. We are expecting in Q3 2026. Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, I believe everybody will come with the passage. Every country will come with the passage of time. I believe every word they will be discussing. System will be coordinating with each other. There should not be. There will not be any human involvement. Invoices will be shared over the system gradually. It will be implemented across the globe. So in the KSA, which where the e-invoicing in the GCC country has been implemented till now, they have implemented the e-invoicing in two phases. One is the generation phase, second was the integration phase. ZK put some regulation like this. Every company, which is B2B, B2G, other than B2C, they need to issue the invoices in the digital format. First, they need to generate the invoices. These invoices must have a QR code. These should be digital invoices. Then they said, now once the 4-grid model, they've initially implemented the 4-grid model, invoice issuer, ASP of the invoice issuer, ASP of the receiver, and receiver, 4-grid model. Now they are integrating this 4-grid model with the ZK system, and they are integrating through the API. While the UE integrated this through the PEPPOL, we'll be discussing what's the difference in between these two. So ZK first generation started in 4th of December 2021, and objective was to make sure every business there in the KSA, they needs to issue the invoices that must be, they need to issue the digital invoices that must be carrying the digital code. Once they have done this, then they have gone for the generation phase. And in the generation phase, now they are integrating with the ZK system based upon these slabs. They said wave 1, wave 2, from wave 1 to wave 11, they are in different waves. They are integrating, as I mentioned, their system with the government system. They are integrating this system through the API, not through the PayPal network. Key features of the system in the KSA, this is a 4-quadrant model, as I said, because 5th corner is not being integrated through the PayPal. 5th corner is being integrated through the API. Transaction covered B2B, B2G, and B2C. System integration, they are integrating the system with the ZK system gradually. Real-time reporting, yes. Data format, yes. Data is invoices in the digital format. Security, QR code is on each invoice. In country storage, this is one of the requirement of the law. The invoices needs to be stored within the KSA, and wherever the businesses are not compliant, this is subject to penalty, and this is penalty from 10,000 to 40,000 riyal. Now e-invoicing in the GCC. This is basically e-invoicing in the KSA. They are asking, they would see a lot of benefits, and 60 to 80% lower processing cost, 2 to 5% basically they have saved per invoice. They have reduces the credit note issuance time as well. Their chances of dispute are very less. The reason that when the systems are involved, one system is issuing an invoice, second system is accepting, data is being sent to the tax authority, and this is being validated. Chances of dispute, they are asking, it has come down from 20 to 40%. 10 to 15% lower audit handling overwork, because everything is a system. Systems are working perfectly, so means you can rely on the data. These are a lot of benefit that the KSA has got from the by implementing the e-invoicing. Once the KSA had got a lot of benefits by implementing e-invoices, now the KSA authorities, UE authorities was parallelly thinking about this as well. Once this VAT has been implemented in the UAE, and VAT has been implemented in the UAE in Jan 2018. Once the VAT was implemented in Jan 2018, over the period of time down the line, 1 or 2 years, somewhere in 2022, the government started thinking about the invoicing. I just wanted to give you a very interesting fact. There's not even a single country across the globe where the e-invoicing has been implemented, but there is no VAT, there no indirect tax. So I'm just going back to the CTC, continuous transaction control. So the core objective, one of the core objective was to control of the leakage. So once the VAT was implemented in UAE in 2018, in 2020, government with the started thinking about the e-invoicing. We will go to the evolution of e-invoicing in the UAE. What the ministry says about the e-invoicing, this is, as Faiza said, this is basically digital document that is being shared over the system, being validated over the system. This is not PDF, this is not a Word document, this is not images, these are not the scanned document, these are not the emails. but this is a digital document in the very structured language. And if we're going back to the basis, you know that UE VAT law has been revised as well. Some definitions has been amended, some more provisions has been added. The tax invoice has been defined in the UE law. This is electronic document. You know, from these definition itself, we can look into this that the government was preparing for the invoicing. Electronic invoicing system means electronic system designated for the issuance, transmission, exchange. These electronic systems are the ASP basically. Electronic invoice, structured electronic format, XML, UBL format. Electronic credit note, structured credit format, so structured electronic format, again, the credit note in the UBL or XML format. This is the evolution of e-invoicing in the UAE. In 2018, as I mentioned, VAT was implemented. Down the line, after almost 4 years, UAE publicly communicates that it is evaluating a national electronic invoicing system. Why? I have given this one line here. There is not even a single country across the globe where there is no VAT, where there is no indirect tax, no GST, but invoicing has been implemented. Means whenever the VAT was there, whenever the GST was there, whenever the indirect tax was there, so one of the tools to control the leakage was invoicing. So government started thinking about the e-invoicing in 2022. In 2023, they came up with the active evolution kicks off. They announced, okay, the KSA already implemented Fatura, the formal exploration and benchmarking. In 2000, somewhere in 2023 and 2024, international interoperability alignment. UAE participates in the OECD TTF cross-border interoperability work stream, signal the choice the UAE is designing toward the future interoperability. In 2024, UAE publicly announces that the PEPPOL will be the national interoperability baseline. UAE become first GCC country to choose PEPPOL before mandate. I have already told you basically in KSA, it has been implemented, but this is a 4-grid model, not 5-grid model. There's a 4-corner model, not 5-corner model. You is the first country in the GCC that has implemented the 5-corner model for the invoicing. In 2024 and 25, UE draft mapping direction based upon the PINT. PINT stand for PayPal International UE specific directory. Basically, whenever our ERP will be communicating with the certified ASP, accredited ASP, this basically the data that our ERP will be sending to the certified ASP, accredited ASP, so this data will be based upon the fields required in the PINT UE directory, which is very important. Now in 2025, government came up with the one ministerial decision, and they said that electronic invoicing, it shows the basically system, scope, and obligations. And the same, the 2025, they came up with the ministerial decision 2022-244 as well, that deals with the implementations of the e-invoicing program and stages, in which stages it will be implemented. This is somewhere about the evolution of UE invoicing. History, we know why. The reason was PayPal, auto generation of the invoices, leakage of the VAT. This was the history. And based upon the history, they have adopted PayPal 5-corner model. And this PayPal 5-corner model, this is the screenshot that I have taken from the ministry side. I think this is exactly, this is the corner 1, this is the corner 2, this is the corner 3, this is the corner 4, and this is the corner 5. This is the reason this is called 5-corner model. This corner 1 we have already discussed. This corner 1 is basically issuer ERP system. This is ASP of the issuer. This is ASP of the receiver or buyer. This is a buyer. This is a 4-grid model. In the 5th grid model, through the PayPal network, seller will be sharing the information with the government. Buyer will be sharing the information with the government as well. Now, this thing is very important. Whenever the seller will be sharing the information with the government, FTA, government, one thing very important, seller will be disclosing they have sold. One thing is very important, they have sold goods or services having a value of 100 assuming and VAT rate is 5%. So total value of the invoice is 105 and VAT is how much? VAT is 5. Now the buyer will say, okay, I have bought goods of 100 from this sender, assuming Mr. A or Messrs. A, and the value of the goods is 100 and I am claiming input tax of 5. So total 105. This 105, important thing for the government is this 5, government know this is a output tax of this seller. Government know this is input tax of this buyer. So this is the reason I'm asking that this, by implementing e-invoicing, government is going to do invoice by invoice matching. So there's no concept of over invoicing. There's no concept of under invoicing. There's no concept that one person issuing the invoice, second person and not paying output tax, and second person is claiming the input tax from the FTA. No, this is invoice by invoice matching. The invoice for which you are claiming input tax, government must be verifying the relevant supplier has paid the output tax or not. So this is invoice by invoice matching. There are almost zero chances of VAT being leaked. Now, this is one of the most important thing, as I said, the CTC, continuous transaction control. That was one of the basically thing reflecting somewhere in 2022 in the Latin American countries. They control a lot of leakage of the VAT. This concept is coming from there. Now, this whole grid, how it will work? This will be issuing the invoice. It will be going to seller ASP. Seller ASP will be validating. And whenever this data will be pushed from this ERP to the seller ASP, there are around 50 fields, you can say minimum 50 fields about supplier, about customer, about line by line invoicing, then VAT rate. Everything will be there. Almost everything will be there. So almost 50 fields will be there. This data will be pushed from the seller ERP to the ASP. This ASP will be validating. Once this ASP will be validating, now this, when at the time of validation, at the time of pushing the data, you need to give the PEPPOL identification number of the buyer as well. So your ASP, this ASP will identify the specific that number across the PEPPOL network, across the globe. It doesn't matter wherever they are based. So they will be identifying, because each ASP, because each customer or each buyer or each seller, they will have one unique number, or they will be connected through their ASP to the unique number. So this ASP will be finding that unique number, connecting with the ASP of the buyer. This, they will be putting the control, security. There are so many things. Basically, the message is being delivered in the secure environment. Once this message is being delivered here, this message will be passed from the buyer ASP to the buyer, and buyer needs to accept only, and this invoice will be posted automatically into the buyer system. And once it will be posted into the buyer system, seller will receive confirmation at the same time that this invoice has been accepted by the buyer. At the same time, parallelly, both of the parties will be reporting to the FTA as well, or to the government as well, and government will be monitoring. Okay, both of the parties has confirmed, invoice has been validated, VAT has been recorded properly, everything will be validated. So this is the reason that we said in the beginning, paperless environment, digital environment, very less risk, very less fraud, and everything will be validated and controlled, and FTA will have the record as well. So if I'm asking, summarizing these five grids, C1 to CT, C2, they will be, as I mentioned, around 50 fields data will be provided to them. And these needs to be mapped in your system. C2 to C3, they will be just putting the same data, putting in the secure environment, and then will be finding the buyer specific PEPPOL number and their ASP, and they will be dispatching this data to the buyer ASP. Buyer ASP will be receiving data, again they will be validating. Buyer ASP will be validating data. After the validating data, they will be passing on their specific buyer. They will be specific key. Once it will be posted to the buyer, what the buyer will be doing? Buyer will be basically, they will be approval and automatically posting in the system. And then C2 to C3, both ASP will be reporting to the government. And what the reason for this? Just to validate, record, and monitor the transaction. And at the end, the data will come back from the C2 to C1 give your invoice has been delivered, it has been accepted, it has been rejected, what is the error, and you need to fix it. Like you are making a call from the UAE to UK, and if your call is not being delivered, you are getting message shortage of balance, call has not been delivered, and the customer is not available. In the same way, this whole network is working. Now the electronic invoicing system, what is the ministerial decision 243 of 2025? What the law says basically, this is applicable to any person conducting business in the UAE. Any person conducting business in the UAE, unless that person is exempt. I'm repeating, this is applicable to any person who is conducting business in the UAE, unless that person is exempt or any other person that has been specified by the minister. And we have not received, might be the minister will come up with the, definitely with the some decision, what are the other persons which are exempt. Till now, what has been given in the ministerial decision, they said these are the persons which are exempt. What are those persons? They said any business transaction conducted by the government entities. And specifically, they have the signing sovereign business. But if they are doing any commercial business, they will be subject to, like DIVA. DIVA is doing government entity, but at the same time doing private business as well. So DIVA will be subject to invoicing. But if there is any ministry that is doing purely for the government, for the public welfare, for the sovereign purposes, then they will not be subject to invoicing. International passenger transport provider, where their electronic invoice is being provided to the customer. Then any ancillary to the services where this document is being provided. For the goods, they put limitation. They said international transportation services in respect of goods provided by airline till shall apply only for a period of 24 months from the date the electronic invoicing system becomes effective. This, after this, they will be subject to invoicing as well. Our financial services which are exempt, might be this is being provided in the UAE, or this is zero rated. We know that when the financial services are being exported, these are zero rated. Those financial services will not be subject to invoicing. These are the category. But if someone is specifically opting, they are not subject to invoicing as per law, but they are opting, they wanted to go for e-invoicing. Law says if they are going for e-invoicing, they are opting for the e-invoicing, then they will be subject to these rules and regulation as well. Electronic invoicing system, they said law says article 5 of the MD 243 of 2025 says every issuer and recipient must appoint ASP. We know this, what is ASP? Do Etisalat, Vodafone, Orange. They need to appoint in the same way ASP, the lot of ASP in the market that we will be discussing today. Ministry will publish ASP list. Ministry has already published pre-approved list of the ASP. Parties must notify ASP of the data changes within 5 business days. Okay, you can go through this. Exchange and reporting obligation, that is very important. Basically, whatever the 5 corner model that we discussed, government has legalized, basically government has put officially in this document how they need to work. The issuer shall issue and transmit electronic invoice. The issuer shall issue and transmit electronic tax credit note. In this situation, you know this, when in which situation we can issue the tax credit note. It will be exactly more or less as per the UAE VAT law. Where the issuer is the registrant, the issuer shall issue and transmit electronic invoice and electronic credit note to the recipient within the timeline. We know this timeline is 14 days as per the UAE VAT law. You need to issue the tax invoice and transmit it within 14 days. And we know the date of supply as well. We know the definition in the law. Then this is the 14 days. Then they need to report it. This is whatever the 5 corner model. Issuer needs to issue the invoice, send it to the recipient. Recipient needs to accept. Both of the parties needs to report to the government. And the timeline to issue the invoice is 14 days. And then the issuer and recipient shall fulfill the obligation under the article through the appointment of ASP that we've already discussed. The recipient shall process electronic invoicing, electronic credit note through the electronic invoicing system through the ASP. Data fields, we have already discussed this. It will be defined in the Print UAE. More or less, it will be around 50 fields. We need to wait for it. Then Article 8 said any agent can do on behalf of you as well. If there is a self-invoicing, we know that there is a concept of self-invoicing in the UAE VAT law, and someone is doing self-invoicing, they will be subject to, if both, provided both of the parties are registered, their concept of self-invoicing as well. then the system will be acting. Now this is a challenge for the ASP, how they will be integrating. Means once it has been approved by the government, means all these provisions are there. The storage of the invoices requirement, system failure needs to be reported in 2 business days to the government. So this is the key highlights of the ministerial decision 243. Means every business is subject to invoicing, except the business that has been excluded. Now, what the article ministerial decision 243 of the law says? Ministerial decision 243 says the scope of the application. They have further clarified. All persons subject to invoicing under decision 3, whoever is subject to invoicing, who has voluntarily opted for the invoicing, or anyone it has been defined by the minister, they are subject to invoicing as well. All those people, then they put another threshold. They said if your revenue it has been defined in the decision 243, the gross income of the most recent accounting period based on your financial statement. Gross income of the most recent accounting period based upon your financial statement. If your gross income is more than 50 million, then the timeline is you need to appoint the ASP by accredited service provided by 31st July 2026. And you need to go live from 1st of Jan 2027. Big companies, big group having a revenue more than 50 million, they will be going live starting from 1st of Jan 2027. If your revenue is less than 50 million, then you need to appoint the ASP by 31st March 2027, go live 1st of July 2027. Government entity, they need to appoint ASP by 31st March 2027, go live 1st of October 2027. Now you will be thinking government entities are exempt. Why they are subject to tax? These government entities which are doing the commercial activities as well, they are talking about those government entities. Furthermore, the law says from B to C, only business are out of the scope until minister decide future inclusion. But we can't say B2C businesses are not subject to invoicing. B2C businesses are subject to invoicing as well. Only we need to wait for the timeline from which date invoicing will be implemented to them. So we all know this, that invoicing, the timeline, which businesses are subject to invoicing, and what is the right basically timeline to select the ASP, and when it will be live, when it will be active. Government says what will be the benefits of this? All digital economy, efficiency, digitalization, economic contribution, security, and the most important thing is minimum VAT leakage. And another most important thing is digitalization. Invoices will be issued by the system. Invoices will be accepted by the system. At the same time, it will be reported to the government. You will not be required to manually issuing invoices, share the PDF, hybrid PDF, no, EDI, nothing. Only system will be speaking to each other like a person sitting in UAE, having a mobile in his hand, in her hand, speaking to another person based in UK through the various networks. In the same way, system will be speaking to each other. Once the system will be speaking to each other, then there will not be any human involvement. Digitalization, era of digitalization and minimum leakage of VAT. Benefits, access to the latest technology, that is very perfect. Invoice processing time will be reduced. It has been given on the ministry side that it will be reduced up to 66%. 82% of the business, I have taken this from the ministry side, they will having a benefits from this basically. Improved cash flows, no conflict, no problem, no disputes, quick, timely management. So everything will be reflecting on the dashboard. So it will be definite impact on the improved cash flows as well. Availability of information for decision making, exchange of invoice, simplifying compliance, straightforward through the system. So now we know what is the PEPPOL network, what is UBL, what is the invoicing, where it has been implemented across the globe, where it has been implemented in the GCC. KSA has adopted 4-corner model, UAE has adopted 5-corner model. Now coming back to the second most important grid, basically second and third grid, these are the accredited service providers. it has been given on the ministry side. This is the criteria. If you wanted to become ASP, this is the criteria you need to meet. Once you are meeting this criteria, you are required these all documents. If you are providing all these documents, then what you can do, you can submit application to the authorities, pre-approval testing, production trial run, pre-approval clarification, and after going all through this, you can become the certified service provider as well, ASP as well. On the PEPPOL site, if you are going on the PEPPOL site, this is the list of the service providers reflecting on the PEPPOL site. I have taken it. You can go through, you can follow this link as well. You will be able to find this. This is the service provider which are based in basically UAE. This is the PEPPOL service provider. But at the same time, ministry has given a list of the pre-approved service provider as well. You can go through this link. You will be able to find there are 9 pre-approved service provider. Just one thing I wanted to make it very clear here. Just keep in mind, accounting system is altogether different, and this ASP is altogether different. There is a possibility one company is providing the accounting system and this company is providing the ASP services as well. I have not done this research in detail, but these are very few chances that the company which is providing the ASP at the same time this company is providing the accounting services as well. I have no idea about this, but most of the cases there will be two different parties. One will be accounting services, which will be basically up corner 1 and corner 4, Zero, Oracle, SAP, Zoho, QuickBooks. These are the basically grid 1 and grid 4. Then grid 2 and 3, this will be two different parties. So these are the parties which are the basically certified ASP. Vodafone, Do Telecom, Do Etisalat, Vodafone, Orange. These are the parties. Just keep in mind for your clarity. If you wanted to know more about the invoicing, you can go to the invoicing question. I have shared here the link. Link has been given here. You can go through this. This is the questions, FAQs. This is foundational level, policy level, service provider, data protection, data dictionary, and architecture. I'm not going through in detail. The time is very limited, but if you wanted to, you can go through this. Way forward. Now, what you need to do as a business, if you are running a business, you are taking care of the business, you are responsible for the compliance matter, what you need to do. First of all, you need to go for your impact assessment. What will be the impact of invoicing on your businesses? This impact assessment, whoever is doing your impact assessment, they will be coming up with the implementation plan. And this implementation plan, I can highlight the point. For this implementation plan are to implement the point that will be highlighted by your impact assessment service providers. You will be required to gather the information for all your customer, what are their basically detail. Then you need to map all those details in your system. Once these details have been mapped in your system, then you need to redesign policies and procedures as well based upon the timeline and based upon the requirement of the law. Once you have everything in place, then you need to clean your data as well. A lot of data might be this is not a clean data. You need to clean your data. Bad TRN you need to remove. Bad addresses you need to remove. Inconsistent buyer's ID you need to remove. You need to clean your data. Once you are cleaning your data, you need to select ASP of your choice on timely basis. Once you are selecting the ASP, now you have your grid 1 ready. You need to find a grid 2. Corner 1 is ready. You need to find corner 2. Corner find all the fields, 50 fields, clean data, policies and procedures in place. Once you have everything here perfectly here, you need to integrate it with the ASP. Once you are integrating with the ASP, go for a pallet testing. And once you are doing the pallet testing, everything up and running, and you need to do this before the effective date of the law for your business. I don't know in which category you are. So then you need to look into your budget as well, arrange a training for your team as well. These are the important things. But whenever you are doing this, what are the challenges you will be facing? First challenge will be mapping up the fields. How do you know? Otherwise, you need to go through the law. After going through the law, identify those fields, then plug those fields in your system. This is the first challenge, identification of the fields, then mapping of the field in your system. Second challenge will be cleaning the whole data. Third challenge will be integration with the ASP. And fourth, another challenge will be to make sure the policies and procedures are in place. Once everything is in place, as I mentioned, data is clean, integrated with the ESC, system is up and running, pilot testing has been done. Once everything up and running, pilot testing done, you will be good to go. So these are the challenges, and we can help you basically to come up with these challenges. We can help you do the impact assessment. We'll be able to define the scope, impact of this invoicing on your organization. We'll coming up with the recommendation tables. Once we are coming up with the recommendations table, based upon this, as I mentioned, then the implementation phase will be mapping the transaction, will be then mapping up the field in your system, cleaning the databases, integration with the ESP, placing SOPs in process, then pilot testing, providing the training to your team as well to make sure they are continuously and smoothly working for this compliance requirement. This is over from my side exactly within 1 hour. So if you have any question, you are most welcome, and thank you very much for your support and cooperation for joining us. So if you have any question, you are most welcome. Okay. Thank you for the insight. As you said that the seller sends the invoice and buyer just need to accept it, it will be posted in the buyer ERP. Yes, you are very right. I think this is very challenging in real life because there is no uniform coding of the item. This is what I was said basically. I was saying the same thing. Your system needs to speak the ASP. And once the system is speaking with the ASP means you need to clean database, create fields in your system. System needs to integrate with the ASP. And this is the one of the challenge basically how we need to do the integration. And before doing the integration, clean your database, create the fields in your system, upgrade the system. Then only you will be able to your system will be able to speak to the ASP. This is fact, we need to do this. Saudi they are doing the same now. The only thing is the integration is a different. Now they are doing the integration of the ASPs with the respective tax authority. Who are the ASP in the UAE? I think I have already shared the list for the ASP in the UAE, ASP in the PEPPOL as well. Is Kress Cooper is a part of the FATCA service provider. FATA. What is FATA service provider? FATA. Apologies. I think FATA, new thing for me. FATCA, I heard this, but FATA, no idea about the FATA. Okay, there is a dependency on different provider system failure at one end may lead to delays. Has not it been more ideal for MOS developers own system provide APIs to be? Listen, this PayPal, this is a PayPal global network, globally accepted by the authorities, and the objective is basically if the government is developing its own system, then how the government system will be interacting with the customer who is based in Europe, with the customer who is based in America, with the customer who is based in KSA. We need a uniform system where the system will be able to speak to each other. And PayPal is one of the best options. They have standard XML language. They will be speaking to each other. And we need to provide the data in the respective format. What is the process of issuing and transmitting credit debit notes electronically? This thing I wanted to just highlight basically. Whenever everything is in place, you will be issuing credit note, issuing invoice, as usual you are doing, and system will take around 5 to 30 seconds to get the accept to send it to the customer. 4 grid will be completed. I've done the research. They said globally, whenever you are issuing the invoice, whenever you are issuing the credit note, and you will be issuing as usual, whenever these credit notes will be issued from your system, it will take from 5 seconds to 30 seconds to arrive at the buyer system. Now it depends upon the buyer how much time they will take to approve it. If their system, if they are already there, they will approve it at the same time. So, but transmission from corner A to corner 4, 5 to 30 seconds, and you will be as usual issuing the credit note, as usual you will be issuing the invoices. FTA. Is Kress Cooper part of FTA service? No, we are not part of FTA service provider. I have already shown you the list. Those are only ASP certified providers. ASPs, accredited service providers. I have already shown you the list. These are the pre-approved ASP given by the government. Can you share fields required for proper invoicing, which you mentioned? We need to wait for the government PIN, UAE PIN directly. They will be containing detailed fields. We need to wait for it. All corner could be implemented at once or it implemented in phase. Only we need to do only one thing that is very important. We need to make sure that my system is speaking with my ASP, nothing other than this. Rest ASP will be doing and government will be doing. I need to do only one thing. I have a balance in my mobile. Whenever I am making a call, I will be able to connect to the network of do or operator, nothing other than this. Rest the network will be doing everything. So I need to do only one thing. I need to make sure my system is speaking with the approved service provider, accredited service provider. Only one thing, nothing other than this. And for this, we need to get all information, put in our system, put in the specific order, mapping in the specific order. If suppose ASP asking, the government document is asking you, the wording should be invoice date, and you are putting invoice issuance date, it means there will be conflict. You need to map exactly line by line, dot by dot to make sure there is smooth flow of the system, smooth flow of the information. If you are a seller falls under adaptation criteria and you implemented invoicing where your buyer does not fall into the limit criteria, hence not adopted, so how this situation will be managed? Okay, this is a very common question. I was expecting this question will come as well. Means you are a registered business, your customer has basically is not carrying any ESP or basically not connected with the ESP. You need to do your job. Whenever you are issuing the invoice, you need to report the invoice to the FTA. If the customer is not there, government will be taking care of it, but you need to do your job. And your job is at the time of issuance of invoice, you need to push the invoice and your ASP will try to find customer ASP. If they will not be able to find, I believe there will be some sort of functionality in the ASP. It will be reported automatically to the government. One invoice is issued, can it be changed after being posted? Yes, of course. You can change. Listen, no change in the process. You can issue the invoice, you can change the invoice, but it will be approval will be required. Just keep in mind. Whenever you are changing, approval will be required. You can issue the invoice, you can change the invoice, and you can send the invoice. Everything will be as usual. As usual, and this will be a matter of 5 to 30 seconds. System will be doing. Only thing is we need to map everything properly. There will not be anything, the process will remain as it is, but the only thing is it will be basically through the system, it will be digital, it will be properly channelized through the system, it will be validated each and every information. Can ERP provider can become ASP or we want integrate? I have already told you basically, I've already requested you, I have not done research on this, but this is very rare cases that the ERP or ASP as well. Very rare chances, but it can be as well. I'm not asking unless and until there limitation. I have not gone through this. So usually this I what I know is basically ASPs usually are different parties and ERPs are different parties. We need to integrate, I'm repeating, we need to put the field, create field, we need to do only one thing in the invoicing. We need to make sure my system is speaking with the ASP smoothly. And for this, I need to do the whole exercise. A is a consultancy firm having disbursement again the client B for DMCC and invoices for disbursement are raised on client B directly. How can A issue invoice to client B? This is a disbursement. And once this is a disbursement, it means this is the disbursement, and disbursement principally invoices are issued for the revenue. If this is the you are paying on behalf of money on someone, on the behalf of someone, I believe you are not liable to issue any tax invoice for this. You need to issue only one email is sufficient to ask them to process the money. Zoeb is asking, thank you for the wonderful information. Question, after accepting the invoice via ASP, will all the output text be automatically updated on the FTA portal, or we have much manual automatic updation automatically? Whenever you are issuing the invoice, it will be validated by grid 2, corner 2 will send to corner 3, corner 3 will validate it again, it will send to corner 4, corner 4 will accept it. At the same time, corner 2 will be reporting output text and corner 3 will be reporting input text automatically. Tushar is asking, what about the small businesses whose turnover is less than 1 million? It is applicable to them as well. If you are B2B, yes, this is applicable. The exclusion is for the time being for the government entities which are purely doing the sovereign business. And second, B2C, but the minister will come up with the timeline for the B2C. If you are doing B2B, it doesn't matter whatever is your level of revenue, you will be subject to e-invoicing. But of course, for your case, the revenue is less, it will be applicable from 2027 onward. I already told you the timeline. One more question for supplier, the first corner will require the most human intervention, of course, in order to enable the data accurately 100%. Also, what will be the scenario for the cash customers since they are not associated to the VAT? Cash customer, if you are issuing the invoice, then this is B2C. Most of the cases B2C, cash customer will be B2C. If they are B2C, minister will come up with the timeline. If they are B2B, principally you need to issue the invoice. And payment mode, the law is silent about this. If you are getting payment in cash, I believe there will not be any problem. But I have not done very honestly research on this thing. I'm noting it down. So payment will be only through the system, or we can accept cash payment as well. Faiza, you need to note down as well. We need to do research. One on this thing. Second, ASP plus ERP 2 point we need to do further research. As per my understanding, these can be two different parties. And most of the time, it will be two different parties. Usman is asking, please let us know how to deal with the foreign suppliers. Do we need to ask them to follow the same procedures as dealing with the? We can't say anything with the foreign supplier. If the PayPal, if the e-invoicing is applicable there, then automatically they will be subject on the same network. It will be quite easy for you to communicate with them. And if they are not subject to e-invoicing in their respective country, now we need to wait for the government regulations and we need to see. But one thing is very sure, we need to report the output tax straightforward from the corner 2 to the corner 5. It will be zero rated for export. If you are a foreign supplier, this is export, it will be zero rated. Kamal is asking, as we have registered in a qualified free zone company and are all exports and place of supply out of the UAE in a way zero rated, yes, you will be subject to B2B. It doesn't matter. Law is not asking B2B in the UAE or out of the UAE. The law is asking B2B. If you are dealing B2B, you are subject to invoicing. Hafiz is asking, what is the implementation for business less than 50 million revenue? When is the implementation? Less than 50 million revenue, you need to select the ASP on 31st of July 2026. You need to select the ASP, and starting from 1st of Jan 2027, you will be subject to invoicing. George is asking, how about our buyer outside UAE not connected to ASP PayPal? Then you will be liable to apply the reverse charge mechanism, and we need to wait for the government regulation. Government will come up with and you will be issuing the invoice on behalf of the non-resident. I believe you will, once you are issuing, basically you will not be issuing the invoice, but you will be applying reverse charge mechanism. Once you are applying reverse charge mechanism on behalf of them, system automatically will create output tax and input tax in your system, but we need to wait for the regulation from the government, further clarity on this. Thank you for the information. You are welcome. Thank you very much for the wonderful insight. You are welcome. What about the database field? We need to update. Add on inner Odo ERP software. Of course, you need to update it on all systems. You need to update it. Deloitte got approval as well. ASP approval might be they received it, but this is not reflecting. I think this is reflecting. Is reflecting on the approved ASP. This is approved ASP or Comarch Signet.
Yes, number 4. Yeah.
Number Deloitte, yeah, number 4, they are here. Deepika Bhai, thank you very much. We need to drop off now for the next call. I'll possible, please share the deck. Would it be very helpful? No problem. I'll send it to you guys. Nadeem is asking, thank you very much for your detailed information, like batch processing, good job. Okay, you are welcome, guys. Our contact detail is given here. If you are in need of any further information from our side, I think, yeah, you can contact us here. mahar@kresscooper.com. You can write me directly, or you can drop an email at info@kresscooper.com. At the end, I will have access to this email as well. Here as well. Any email, you can come back to us. You are most welcome. Well, thank you very much. Very nice to speak to you, and have a lovely evening. Thank you very much, Faiza.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.